Well, the Rays have already made a trade, actually multiple trades this offseason, and more may be on the horizon, according to the reports that we're reading and looking at.
That's right. And so we have a podium episode. So let's get started right now.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano.
And we are the host of the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your very first listen every day. Be sure to check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Locked On Rays. You can also find us on X and Instagram at Locked On Rays, and we are accepting mailbag questions as always. We recently received a really cool one recently, so keep them coming. LockedOnRays@gmail.com. So there has been a lot of scuttlebutt over the last several days and weeks about trades involving the following: Tyler Glasnow, Manuel Margot, and or Harold Ramirez. And we put it out on social media, and we'll get to the social media comments shortly of which of these Rays players do we think, or do you think, we all think will be traded first between Glasnow, Margot, and Harold Ramirez. And Ulises, like you mentioned in the open there, you have a podium. We have a podium as to who we think will be the first one gone.
Yes. Should we start right now?
Yeah. Are we going 1, 2, 3 of most to least likely to be traded, I suppose, or just in order? Let me put it like this. Do you think all three players are going to be traded by the time the offseason is over?
I think they all, one should not be.
Right.
If you've been watching the show, I think you know which one. But yeah, they all have more than likely, they're more than likely headed out. Yes.
Okay, that's fair. All right, so let's get into it then. Who you think is first off the board? Who's the guy that the Rays are most aggressive about trying to move in the coming days, weeks, and months?
I think they're most aggressively trying to listen to good trades regarding Tyler Glasnow.
Okay.
And I feel like if you want to compete in 2024, you cannot trade Tyler Glasnow. You just cannot. If you do, you're looking at a rotation that Zach Eflin, who had a career year in 2023 with the Rays, but that was his best ever. And so now you're putting him at the top of the rotation. And then number 2, Aaron Savale. Number 3, now it's Zach Littell. Like, you don't know what Zach Littell is. You don't know. There's that. So that's your first question mark already at number 3. Number 4, Bradley Tosh. I mean, he's a very young pitcher. He's got a lot of things to work on, and he's already part of your rotation, solidified at number 4. And number 5, Shane Baz, a guy who has basically broken 100 innings in the major leagues. And I think coming off Tommy John, so he hasn't pitched for a year plus. He's your number 5. Like, it's so minimal. So I know that there are people right now that are listening to this or watching this and hit that subscribe button and hit that like button that are saying, okay, Ulises, but obviously they're going to get somebody back. They're not just going to trade Glasnow and then just going to leave the rotation empty. That would be silly. And I said, yeah, that's true. But let's look at what's happening in the market right now. Maeda signed a 2-year, $24 million contract. You're looking at Lance Lynn, who had a 5+ ERA, allowed 44 home runs. Let me repeat that for the people in the back. 44 home runs. This man just signed a $10 million contract. Kyle Gibson, with his 7% walk rate and his 4.8 ERA, he just signed a $12 million contract with the Cardinals as well. So you're saying that Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson is worth $22 million. One Tyler Glasnow is 25. I feel like the math just does not make sense to trade Glasnow, because who are you bringing back in that would give you some quality innings.
So if the Rays are so actively shopping or listening, and there's so many reports out there that, hey, they're moving Tyler Glasnow one way or the other, is that a signal to you and the fan base that, not saying they're punting on 2024, but it's a reset, a retool of sorts, knowing that, hey, questionable nature of what happens with Wander Franco, Shane McClanahan out for the season, so many other pitching injuries to deal with. We still are competing, but we're not going for it. We more so have our sights set on 25, 26, 27.
I feel like that. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't, I don't even think it's like a retool if they trade Glasnow, because you never know who you're going to get back. But it does give you vibes of 2018, a young team, that hopefully best case scenario gets to a 90 win mark and sneak into the playoffs. I mean, if they had the expanded playoffs in 2018, that Rays team that felt like a college team would have made the playoffs. So
right.
I think that's what you would be looking at in 24. But hearing Cash, hearing Neander and Bendix when he was part of the postmortem conference there, it seemed like they don't want to ever take off their foot off the pedal, so to speak. Like they know they're close. I feel like if they just were to do this sort of trade, like a Blake Snell trade, which you hope that you hit something, you did not.
Where it's like forget the names for a second of Mejia and Blake Hunt and whether those guys worked out or didn't work out, but that is the type of return that would stomach the deal a little bit more, in the sense of you're getting 3 to 4 quote unquote top 100 prospects, or like the Chris Archer deal where you're getting Glasnow, Boz, and Austin Meadows. Something where it's like, whoa, okay, that's nice. That's something we can. It sucks to lose Glasnow in what we expect and think and believe is his prime, but there's some building blocks there. Now, whether they pan out, that's another question.
But the issue with that is that with Snell and with Archer, you had multiple years left on their contract, and you had way less of an AAV attached to the name. So it was very easy, quote unquote, to get Shane Boss, Meadows, and Glasnow, or Patino, Hunt, and the company Wilcox. I feel like with Tyler Glasnow, like, yes, it's $25 million. Yes, he's a Cy Young candidate if he's healthy. But also, that other team is not dumb. That other team is not going to be like, yep, you can have our best pitching prospect in AAA waiting in the wings, and you can have a catching prospect. Like, it's 1 year, too, of a guy that has health issues in the past, that you are going to be paying $25 million. Like, right. I feel like the team that would trade with the Rays is also not going to just say, yep, you can just take us for fools. Like, I don't think it's going to be that.
Unless there's some, maybe a nod, wink, wink situation where the team that lands him also has maybe had some conversations with his people, his agent, his advisors that, we do want to try to extend you and lock you up to, I think he had said it on a podcast somewhat recently, maybe that was only for the Rays and not another team or organization out there, that, hey, 6 years, under $50 million, something that a 9-figure deal, if that makes sense. So for the record, some of the teams that MLB Trade Rumors has attached to Glasnow or believe would be good fits to Glasnow are in alphabetical order here. Angels, Astros, Braves, Cardinals, Cubs, D-backs, Dodgers, Giants, Mets, Padres, Rangers, Reds.
I mean, that's like 10 teams right there. Probably as many teams as Rich Hill has pitched for, who, by the way, Rich Hill earned $8 million last year, and he had a higher WAR than Lance Lynn, 0.7 to 0.5. So are we really saying that Rich Hill might also get around $8 to $10 million?
Yeah.
Woof. What is out there, folks, that you're going to turn $25 million into some other arms? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost to the point of, if you can guarantee health and giving us 80, 90, 100 innings, we'll give you several $1 million, because pitchers are just dropping like flies, unfortunately. We have more to discuss on this, but first we have to tell you this. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel. They are America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, well, there is no better time to get in on the action than right this very moment. The app is super easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over, unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn, LOCKEDON, to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, they are the official partner of the NFL. So, speaking on Tyler Glasnow, I'll say this. He is, I guess, #1 on your list of guys that the Rays are shopping or correct?
They are. He is the
You're on mute, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. We're having some technical difficulties. Stu Sternberg is interrupting the stream, evidently.
He is the player who they have picked up the phone for the most.
Okay.
I'll leave because again, I just think that you really shouldn't be trading this guy.
Right, I understand that. So, as far as just answering the question of which Rays player do you think will be traded first, I actually think it could be Manny Margot. And here's why. I think that the Rays really, really, really want to do their due diligence on Tyler Glasnow. And that may be waiting until the dust settles from free agency and seeing where so many of these available pitchers wind up and land. And maybe, there's some freak accident in the offseason, or a pitcher needs some sort of surgery that wasn't projected previously. I just think that they want to really, instead of just saying, hey, we're just trying to get this $25 million off the books, they want to make sure it's the very, very, very best deal. And they're going to be, more or less, taking calls on all 29 other teams out there. Whereas Manny Margot, I feel like with him, it's more so a salary dump. Like, we're just trying to get this off the books. So, I mean, you clearly want to get a good return, or the best return possible, but it's like, we need to move on from this $10 million. We need to move on from him being the third or fourth highest paid player on the roster, and infill the outfield spot with more Luke Raley, or going out and acquiring some other outfielder in free agency, whatever it may be. But I think that's more so, hey, we just want to get that off the books so we have some money to play with whatever our plans are with that money.
I think Manny Margot is the easiest trade for the Rays to make because of the nature that it is, which is a salary dump. So you're really going to be getting a lottery ticket, perhaps, maybe a little bit something more stable than that. But with $10 million associated to him, there's not going to be a lot of value that you're going to be getting unless you attach a good prospect. You could do that too,
right?
And in order to get a higher value, but the Rays have eaten some salary before, or at least contributed some money into the deal. So let's say if we remember, Yandy Diaz was traded for Jake Bauers, but also the Rays had to give Cleveland $5 million. So they have done this in the past.
Yeah, I
think they are more generous with their money, with their payroll, than they were in 2018 to 2019. So I could see a scenario where they would, put some money for Manny Margot to just, take his leave somewhere else, and then they
Right.
can, restructure the roster a little bit better.
Now, as far as restructuring the roster, you take Manny Margot out of the equation, it does seemingly leave a void in the outfield, or at least depth in the outfield. What are you looking at in replacing him? Is it a defensive first guy? Is it a bat first, defense second guy? Is it going out and, finding somebody in the Rule 5 draft, in free agency, in trade? What are you looking at here?
Yeah, so to remind everybody, so the outfielders would be Randy, left, Siri, Josh Lowe, and Luke Raley. So so you have good offensive numbers in the outfield. So I wouldn't mind them going a little bit more on the defensive side but somebody durable. Obviously not Brett Phillips, but a Brett Phillips type of player, obviously with a Rhino Tapia. How about that?
Okay.
Somebody who can you can plug in the corner outfield, maybe even center field if needed. That has some experience, that has some veteran leadership, but mostly defensive minded, because I think with the other four guys you're looking at, although they're all solid defenders, I think you're not unhappy with the production offensively from any of those four guys.
Right. So you're not looking big names per se. It's a small ad for, maybe a couple $1 million here or there. It's not like, hey, we're moving Manny Margot off the roster so we can bring on Jung Ho Lee to the roster or something like that.
Honestly, no. I think it could also be an opportunity in-house. Hey, Ulises Basabe, maybe we don't have a room for you in the infield. Can you bring an outfield glove in spring training?
Hey, Greg Jones.
Hey, Greg Jones. Exactly. So it could be something like that the Rays would kind of restructure their roster with in-house options. I mean, you could also, I know it's early, but I think you've got, Aranda, I know people don't like the glove. You could also try him out during spring training in the corner outfield. It could be scary. It could be another Harold Ramirez situation. Right. But I think for that fifth outfielder, I think you would already be, okay with giving up some of the offense if you can get a good glove.
Now, does it matter to you whether it's righty or lefty, or it's kind of just somebody that can handle the defensive responsibilities?
Honestly, perfect best case scenario, switch hitter, because you've got two righties in Randy and Siri, and then you got two lefties in Lowe and Rayleigh. So, a switch hitter would be perfect in a best case scenario.
But El Brujan doesn't want to hear that. Talking about, hey, the opportunity was there for the infield for maybe the shortstop role. And now, with Margot likely being moved, the outfield spot, that was a perfect situation. The Rays were like, no, we do not see you part of our present, near future or long-term future. So maybe it is indeed Greg Jones that they're looking at to really take a step and elevate his gameplay and be that versatile asset, whatever it may be. So, so Manny Margot likely to be moved as well. Now, Harold Ramirez. I kind of have mixed opinions on this because while I have seen reports of the Rays looking to move Harold Ramirez, and I guess he, is going to make a decent coin this year. I love the bat. I just love what he's got, a skill that is rare, that is hard to find, that is hard to replace. And I think that for, $4.5, $5 million, I think that's something that the Rays could stomach. But I also understand that, hey, if they're really looking to move payroll, that would be a guy to do that. So.
Yeah. If the conversation in the front office is, hey, we need to lower payroll, $4.4 million does help a lot in the Rays roster. But I agree with you. I mean, I would be completely okay with running back Harold Ramirez, because in about the same amount of plate appearances from year 2022 to 2023, man, he increased basically every offensive category that he could. Base
Yeah.
running, way better this year. Home runs, average, on base, slugging, speed. In fact, I did a little bit of research here. He faced more changeups, more sliders this year than he did last year, and still the production uptick. And obviously, because of those increases in the breaking pitches and off speed, he obviously saw less fastballs this year. So
Right.
so in our harder year, he even stepped up even better. So I feel like what he can do is not easy. It's not easy to hit 300 and then 313. I know batting average is not what it used to be, but it still means something. And hitting 300 in the major leagues and back-to-back seasons in over 420 plate appearances,
Yeah.
that's very difficult.
And also him dealing with the right thumb fracture with all that, missing, 4 to 5 weeks and coming back and really not missing a step, missing a beat. And he was, so inspirational and so clutch and came up in so many big ways. You're essentially, I mean, if we're looking at it simply, you're getting a 2-WAR player more or less for $4.5 million. Really, really good value. And I think that's what the Rays look at, is overall value. And I know we can talk about the glove and the defense, this and that, but 300 players don't grow on trees. And I would think that if you are shopping him around, that you'd want to at least get something decent for him. And I still feel like he's got sort of that Isaac Paredes complex of where the league just doesn't rate him or value him like he is and what he provides and brings to the table as a hitter.
He slides under the radar a little bit, and that's good. That's good for the Rays. And I know it can be a little bit frustrating for some people when they're watching him swing wildly, but it's really awesome of how, BA has pointed out this every time, the 2-strike approach. With him and protecting the zone, and it's really impressive. Like, he's a hitter, man. Like, he's like kind of like Yandy. Like, he just understands what he's out there to do, and he will fling his bat wherever that ball is, and hopefully it'll fall for a hit. Like, that's valuable to have, especially on a team that is going to have guys that strike out quite a bit.
Yeah, he just has a knack for finding spots and finding holes and getting base hits, which is something that you're eventually going to need if you're going to win postseason games as well. And we didn't even mention or bring up the off the field value as well. But so that's something that'll have to be looked at going forward too.
If you look at baseball trade values, he's actually ranked around Jason Adam, like a little bit less than Jason Adam and a little bit more than Sean Armstrong, just to give people a little bit of color there and background. So you could get something of value, but do you need Harold Ramirez more than you need those $4.4 million? The big question is, do you need that spot for a Yandy Diaz to get more rest from first base? You could, if you want him to stay healthy throughout the season, you might. And so that may be more valuable to you, given that you're paying Yandy Diaz $8+ million. So it'll be very interesting, but I wouldn't be upset if Harold Ramirez is on the roster in the opening day roster next year. I would not be upset, but I also would not be crying so much if he wasn't either. Like, I understand the thought process.
I like the mention of Yandy Diaz. I think that ties in well. And something that they do really similarly is just the ability to hit the ball the other way for a base hit. Like, time and time and time again, Harold Ramirez has shown that ability. And he can also showcase a little power too, more poolside power. But that's something, if you look at his highlight reel, just something to focus on. So, all right, closing things out here, we did put it out on X. Which Rays player do you think will be traded first between Glasnow, Manny, and H-Ram? 50% of the vote went to Manny Margot, 45% of the vote went to Tyler Glasnow, and just 5% of the vote went to Harold Ramirez. Some comments here from our buddy Ty McCann says, I hope if the Rays trade Glasnow, it's for a really, really good package, maybe one with starting pitching baked in. At this point, if the Rays want to compete, they need to keep Glasnow, just like what you said, Ulises. Ben Anderson says, if Glasnow gets traded, I think it'll be after the dust has settled on all the starting pitchers in the free agent market. Yeah, there are a lot of options out there between Montgomery, Snell, Yamamoto. That's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there's so many other ones as well. And then Doc Charles says, there's no rationale that works for me, money or otherwise, that says the Rays should trade Glasnow. You need pitching. He's your guy. Here's your guy.
Yeah, I agree with those folks. Again, I think he needs to stay in order for you to say we're still at the same level of we're still going for the division. We're still going for the division. I feel like if you don't have Glasnow and the trade, gives you back a couple of AAA people that they might or might not, give you some production, then it's kind of that empty feeling of like, okay, they just hope to get to the dance and then something good can happen.
And maybe that's what it is. Like, as unfortunate as it seems, like the Orioles are on such an upward track, and then who knows? I mean, it'd really be a buzzkill for Rays fans where Tyler Glasnow gets traded, the Orioles make some sort of big acquisition or big splash. The Blue Jays sign Ohtani. It's like, holy cow! I guess third place it is then, right?
And then the Yankees go nuts and they go Yamamoto.
Yeah.
It would be very deflating for sure.
All right. So there it is. Feel free to hit up your thoughts in the comments there on YouTube and the chat as well. In the meantime, we always love trade discussion and scenarios and talk. So if you want to email us any of your ideas, lockdownrays@gmail.com to do that. In the meantime, hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe. And we will talk to you on Tuesday.